Startled you, didn't it?
Hey, Justin.
Shane?
That's me.
We're going to do an intro because we're recording now.
Yeah.
So we're going to do an intro.
Okay.
Which is my least favorite part.
Uh-huh.
So this is it.
This is the intro.
This is it right here.
This is incredibly professional.
Thank you. Professionalism is something I've always strived for.
Yeah?
Yeah, and I'm glad that somebody picks up on that.
For 20 years, it's our entire relationship has been laden with professionalism. That's like.
Well, thanks again for joining me here in the game lair.
This is the Chit Talk kitchen.
The Chit Talk official break room.
Break room, yep. Mm-hmm.
We've gotten rid of all of our games because we are polarizing against consumerism.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we don't play any games anymore. Let's talk about our failed 10 by 10.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Yeah, we failed epically.
We failed. Yes, that's
Amanda.
probably a great way to put that.
Yeah.
For clarification, we did not get rid of any of our games. We traded away some. Yes. But our last episode was our 10 by 10. Thank you all for joining us. Our last episode.
They should be wanted it. Yep.
Very light. It's very bright. It's a white card with a white light shining in it. You're just going to have to trust us that we failed. But we're about to tell you about that. So our last episode, if you recall, was the 10 by 10. We basically set out that we were going to make a list of 10 games we want to play 10 times, commit to games that we felt deserved multiple plays, and kind of get those down and, like, recap later what was happening, where we were, how we were feeling about those games. Some games that we, thought we had played already. Mm-hmm. Thought we wanted more. I don't think we have any games on here that we had not played once yet. I think we talked about that actually. But
no, at least one of us had played each of these before.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. So out of 100 games, 10 by 10, how many games did we play in total? 5 games. We played 5.
Put your hand against my hand. Yes, there it is.
I got the wrong.
No,
now we still got the wrong
just
hands.
keep doing it. I know. It's fitting.
We played 5 of these games.
We did.
We played 5 games one time each.
Yes.
Those aren't the only games that we played in the past.
Played a lot of other games.
7 games. We played a lot of other games.
And we played a lot of other games more than once.
Correct.
Yes.
Sometimes in the same sitting. You would think those would be excellent candidates. But here's the thing about this, though. Here's the thing. This became a more emotionally burdensome than I had anticipated. And I'm kind of curious what that says about me as a gamer. I'm kind of curious about what that says about me as a man. A family man.
As an adult man.
As an adult male who makes his own decisions about the things that he does and likes.
As a cis white adult male.
Yes.
Well, it's interesting that we went into the 10 by 10 talking about kind of the emotional involvement of the way we had been consuming games. And
That's true, you're right.
We're touching base against like 6 months later maybe, talking about the emotional involvement of doing the thing that we were doing in response to our prior emotional turmoil.
Uh-huh.
So this leaves a lot to be explored.
Something you said recently struck me about how this show is so much less about games and so much more about emotional instability.
Yeah.
I don't think that was a word you used, but I think that was a pretty good summation of the conversation.
The gist of it, yeah, absolutely.
I think so.
Well, I think, the one thing that really stuck out to me, we just watched our video just a couple moments ago to just like try and put ourselves back in the frame of mind that we were in at the time.
Yeah.
And the one thing that really stuck out to me, and it's always been important to me, and then I made a point of mentioning with board games and the same thing with my other hobbies, is that it's less about the thing that I'm doing and more about them being vehicles for experiences and for good, honest, novel conversation. And I think that I've done a great job at succeeding in that endeavor over the last 6 months. This I have not, but that I feel really great about.
Yeah, that's a great call. And it's only in hindsight that I'm seeing how that discussion about creating experiences and then let's do a 10 by 10, how it's a complete non sequitur. Like, those things in hindsight don't make any sense together whatsoever. We were trying to avoid just playing games to play games. It's like I was when I was out earlier this morning, I was like, I had nothing to do. I'm out with Phoebe, and I'm like, maybe I hit the game store. You know what? I don't I don't have any reason to do that. I have lots of games that I love at home, and I won't do that. Which is not something that I've always been able to, in order to have been able to fight off. But I agree with you. We've really kind of embraced a lot more earnest experiences.
I can't tell you the last time I put in a order to Cool Stuff as soon as I got paid. And that was something that I used to do.
I can tell you the last time I put in an order to Cool Stuff.
Regularity.
I've
never heard about that.
Yeah, I'm sure you've never heard about that story.
Cool Stuff is a wonderful retailer.
So let's move on from there as quickly as we can.
Okay.
But I've made a couple of points here, and obviously, these are just kind of guidelines of things that I thought might be interesting to come up with. The level of abandonment that we applied to this, I feel like it was not sudden. I feel like it was not like, oh, let's stop, but it was very quick. Because what was the first game we played? The first game we played was Cry Havoc, which I really like, and I was the one who advocated for putting it on the list. You were kind of this attitude of like, I didn't like it before, but I'll give it another shot.
Yes. Which is something that I wouldn't say it's a character flaw. Normally, I try if there's something I don't. It's intellectual curiosity. Like if I don't get the gist of why someone might enjoy this experience, like I need to know why. I have to. Like, said this before, but like, I love sushi, but sea urchin, the first 5 times I tried it, 5 times, I hated it. The 6th time, I get it now. And I like it. And I get it every time.
Every time.
Every single time. There's, again,
that sounds like a dangerous curiosity.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's like a term I used before we turned this whole thing on, was like a flimsy sense of identity.
Wow.
But I mean, we don't have to get go that morbid with the whole thing, but we can.
This is actually an intervention.
This is oh god. No, enough of that.
I think that's an interesting point that it's you looked at something and you were like, everyone else seems to enjoy this. Why am I not enjoying this? I'll give it another shot.
Yeah.
Which I think is actually a great sort of explanation for what sort of fostered this feeling, of like, why are we doing this? Why are we putting ourselves through this? For things that we don't necessarily enjoy. I actually marked Cry Havoc as a big green smiley face. You have it as a big
fiery red.
Just an angry face.
Yeah.
It's very, very angry.
Yep.
But that's a good call, is because when we were talking about the experience, talking about creating experiences, it's like, well, I don't want to bring Cry Havoc out with Shane anymore because I know that he's not enjoying it. He didn't enjoy it before. He didn't enjoy it when he tried to give it a fair shake again, like that catch. It's incredible. Because I've been watching soccer. They use their hands a lot.
The good ones, at least.
It's like I'm so much less prone to even want to play that game, knowing that it's like I'm committing with people to play it. Like, hey, you want to come over and play this game you hate? Like,
so I think it would be fine if we played it just every once in a while, but within the context of the fact that it's like I'm doing something I don't enjoy at all. I enjoyed the company greatly, but the game I didn't enjoy at all. And I have that pressure of knowing that, wow, I'm going to do like this 9 more times. It's like you're at the dentist and it's like, at least you know when you're done, right? But if they're like, hey, you got 9 more appointments, that's real bad. That's real bad. So I think like it inherently it puts that pressure on you. It's like, it's harder to just check out. Because we could definitely play that game at our weekly meetup or something like that. And I'd be a good sport and I'd play it and I'd have fun because I would just be spending more time interacting with other people and less time fully invested in the game itself.
I'm actually glad that you brought up the weekly meetup, the meetup that we do. So we do a bi-weekly meetup at a local brew pub, and we've been doing it for about 2 years. And I think actually I wanted to kind of circle around on that, but now I think is as good a time as any to bring it up. And that these kinds of games, because they demand a lot of plays to really get into, they might not actually be very good candidates to bring to our meetup, which is something that for me personally is really important to me. And when I wrote down, at the very end of this, what sorts of games have we been playing? It's like I've actually been playing a lot of stuff that I feel like plays well at those meetups. That it's like it's easy to throw down, it's easy to teach. First Class. It's like I have easily played that more than 10 times this year. easily, and it didn't make it on my list. I don't even think that I had played First Class once before we even made this.
I don't believe so.
Yeah, so it's like even in like 4 or 5 months or whatever, I've played that game easily 15 to 20 times.
And I've played it 3 times, I think.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I played the shit out of it.
Played Barren Park a lot.
Yeah, Barren Park is
played
another
San
one.
Juan a ton. Because that's a great game to just bring there and play with anybody.
Yeah.
I know this was supposed to be just exclusively the two of us having to play it.
Yes.
The 10 by 10 together.
Yes, because I did actually play like Forbidden Stars. I did play without you in this time. So.
Yeah, likewise. I played Last Will 2 more times.
Okay.
I played Lewis and Clark, Le Havre.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is that I think that the desire to bring stuff to the meetup and know that because I love our meetup. Personally, I get a lot of satisfaction out of it. I feel really good that I've created this environment where people are coming together, having a lot of fun. I really love holding that space for people, and that has become important enough to me that it dictates a lot of the things that I want to do. Is because I think that the danger of sort of locking yourself into these obligations and taking your hobby and turning it into this drudgery where it's just that's what I do, that's what I have to do now, the feeling like that's some sort of obligation completely changed it for me.
Yep.
And it's even though these are games that I still want to play, because I look at this and it's wow, Forbidden Stars, that's definitely one of my all-time favorite games. Keyflower, a game that I've continued to say would probably be one of my favorite games if I played it more. I've played it maybe 2-3 times since I've owned it, but I've loved it. And I was if I played it more, I'd probably make it higher on my list. Games that I actually love on here and would love to play more. And even we've played games since then, and it's wow, this would have been good to put on our 10 by 10. So we understand, the desire to play things multiple times. It's just that putting them on a piece of paper and attacking it to the wall made it miserable.
Psychologically changes things.
Yeah.
It just does. What was the point of this? Well, that's fine.
It's gone in the wind.
It's gone. Something about our weekly meetup, but it gone.
She gone.
She gone.
So were there games you immediately regretted putting on here? Would you say Cry Havoc was a game that you immediately regretted putting on this list?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Cry Havoc. Probably X-Wing as well.
Oh, really?
And I like X-Wing a lot. The problem is that X-Wing takes maybe an hour to play.
Okay.
But the onus is on me because I have all the X-Wing stuff. He doesn't have any X-Wing stuff. Or you have a very small amount.
I have none.
Oh, none? You don't have any more? Okay. To build the squads, to figure out some storage solution for taking the ships somewhere, if that would become necessary. But there's hours spent because it's that style of game. It's a lifestyle game.
Saying. Yeah.
Outside of the game, all the things we love about Arkham, and Netrunner, and for me Thrones and Star Wars Destiny and stuff like that, I would have to do with that game as well.
Yeah. I see what you're saying.
And so I didn't necessarily want to sign on for that.
Right.
But I did.
No, I get you. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I run an online Discord server for Netrunner, basically beginner Netrunners, Netrunner players. But I am by no means an advanced or even intermediate player. I'm a beginner myself. And not that I'm terribly new to the game. We've been actively playing it since before we even made this list. Since sometime last year that we got into it. But there's that same sort of pressure on me, is that I want to be active in our community tournaments and stuff like that. I want to be active in the discussions, but it's I just don't know that card pool. I've come to know it, but it's in general and among the other people who I would be playing against, I don't know it.
And I wonder how many people are in your shoes as well.
Yeah.
I don't know. I want to play more Thrones, but it's that same sort of thing where I'm man, I don't know the cards. I haven't played this game a ton, despite the fact that I own every card.
Sure.
And I'm sure if I actually went, people would be like, oh yeah, of course, let's, I'll play this deck against you. I think it'll be a good pairing, or I think this will be a good deck for a beginner. But, there's pressure that comes along with that.
Yeah. So I understand what you're saying about the X-Wing pressure, though.
Yeah. And I love X-Wing. It's a great game.
Yeah.
But there's all those other, life isn't as easy as just doing a thing you like all the time, unfortunately.
It's not?
No. Oh, God. Well, you double back to this real fast, but use the word drudgery to describe kind of the experience of this. And I think that's the same word we used in the 10 by 10 video. Again, describing our prior experience.
Yeah, I think we used it when we were talking specifically about like just the ticking off
off games.
Yeah, and this is exactly what that was. It's literally a grid of games.
Yep. And is that just the natural evolution of a hobby as well? Because I know for me in craft beer, it was, wow, this is a new novel thing. Like, to be honest, like, feels pretty cool. Not everybody else is doing it.
And there's even like apps for it, like Untapped now, where like that really just banks on people's desire to like just keep checking off the beers.
And I was doing the same thing. It was like, man, I gotta try every single possible beer I can. And then at a point, it was like, there's not the emotional fulfillment that there used to be with that. And I still love beer, but it changed the relationship that I had with it. And yeah, that's just potentially just the natural evolution of every hobby. It depends, I guess, also on your personality. Certain people, maybe they're going to be able to be fully invested emotionally in something for decades. Whereas just the thought of that makes my chest tighten up with anxiety. So, we're different. We're different people.
Is it just being, the repetition? Because it's like we haven't become less interested in our hobby. It's just that when we tried to put ourselves in this framework, did we come to hate that particular aspect of it? And it's like, well, I'm not doing those. And more importantly, does that miss the point of what we tried to do here? I think first off, yes. That we set out to do something that was not the remedy to what, like, we were doing it in response to something that made no sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we didn't realize that.
Yeah. It was an effort in minimalism, almost of sorts. Like, let's get out of the consumerization of this. Yeah. And really invest our time and energy in enjoying the quality of something that we think is really good. But when you're no longer enjoying it because it's become a task, then you've subverted the entire thing. Right. So I think at least I'm happy with what I've done over the last 6 months playing games. Yeah, a lot of times, I don't know, maybe like a quarter of the time, half of the time that I end up coming to our meetup, I really don't feel like playing games. But I show up and I hang out with people, and then I'm invested in it. And I'm enjoying playing the game because I'm really trying to be honest about the fact that it's about the relationships we have with people. Yeah. So,
yeah, that's awesome. In terms of obligation, I listened to, actually earlier this week, I listened to the Cool Ghosts podcast. Cool Ghosts is one of the guys from Shut Up and Sit Down. Matt Lees does a video game podcast, which I think predates Shut Up and Sit Down. But I guess he's started doing it again after a break or something like that. They seem to take a lot of breaks. But I guess that's the sort of thing when you got something much bigger blowing up. Anyway, the episode that they were talking about was about breaks, about taking those breaks. And how he had two other people on who had one of them was a games writer, and I think she now is a writer for The Guardian, but used to be a games writer. I'm not sure, I don't think she's still doing games writing for The Guardian, but she's like, now I don't. She's like, first off, I was off for a year because I had a baby, and she's like, but now I'm also not really like a heavy games writer. So she's like, I can play games for fun. She's like, in the last year, the only thing I played was Zelda. She's like, it was the only game that I have played over the last year. She's like, but I played the hell out of it. But all three of them were talking about how interesting it was to have to not feel obligated to play games, where it's just like, well, I just got this, so I guess I got to play it. And even the other night, too, I'll be perfectly honest, it was the other night at our game meetup when somebody, what designer wanted to come out and do a play test. And I was just like, I'm not really into that, but you can ask. Yeah. And everyone else was. Yeah. But that's awesome. Yeah. If everyone else was into it personally, and it was a relief to me because I was like, I really don't want to do that. I did not want to. And it's not that I don't have any desire to playtest stuff. It's like, I've been working on that Arkham scenario that I've been playtesting and getting you to help me playtest, and it's just I didn't want to do that, And it would have. I feel like it kind of like revealed something about the danger of taking it too seriously. You know, of just like, I'm going to commit to this for no reason that I can fathom. No emotional, like, I don't feel like I'm getting any satisfaction out of this. I don't feel like anything like that. I said I was going to do it, so I'm going to do it. And the obligation, I think, really, really turned me off from that entire thing.
And no, I felt the same way about it. I was very happy that people sat down with him and play test this game, and that's great. And I would want to foster that kind of thing, of course, but it might not just be right for me, because I know what it is that I'm looking to get back from this experience, and it would be subverting that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm not willing to do that.
I think that's a good point, I think, especially because of the context of it. I think in any other context, I would be fine with meeting up with somebody and just playtesting their game. But it's like at a meetup where I feel like I'm the host. I feel like I'm there to hold the space for people, and it's just like, I'm going to play something and be critical about it in front of everybody. Like, I feel like really is not something that personally I want to project onto people who are there. And people who are there for maybe the first time, you know?
Yeah.
That it's just like, let's all sit down and dump on this game. You know, or as the case may be, you know, like everyone seemed to really enjoy it. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's awesome. But I think that was a fear of mine. I was afraid that it would just be like this really critical session where people would not walk away from it feeling like they came out and had a good time that night.
No, I absolutely agree with that.
So I felt obligated to kind of keep other games going around it, where I felt more like that was what I wanted to do anyway. So that's interesting. So anyway, I found that anecdote that they had really fascinating, and kind of relevant to this whole discussion, that they were talking about the difference in being games writers and, like, for example, with Zelda. So with Zelda, she gave the example of, like, that was a game that people, you know, like, there were reviews out for it, you know, 2 days after it came out. Whereas it was not the sort of game that was really meant to be binged like that.
Yeah.
Because people talked about how it was repetitive, this and that. Whereas this writer was finding that after that length of time, she felt like she had really come to inhabit Hyrule. Like that she's like, I know this game in and out. I know this world in and out. I know how these tricks work. And the game really took on a new life then. And I guess the thing that really ties it all back into this is kind of just like our whims, our motivations are like, if we sit down and we're like, now it is time to be critical about this game. Yes. You know, if I sit down and it's just like, now I want to put this little, like, we even put little smiley faces, like we were judging these games as we were playing them, which is fine. It's fine to have an opinion, but how does it dilute what we endeavor to treat as a hobby? You know, how does it change that when we are just like, time to sit down and plow through this right now? And
trying to turn it into some kind of like diagnostic assessment of our experience doing something we do for fun. It becomes pretty rigid. Yeah. And that's not what I've been looking for. Would it be organic? You know, I know you generally have more of a plan. When you show up at the property, you're like, hey, I'd really like to play this game. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that whatsoever. Me, I generally just go in like, I brought some stuff. You sometimes you don't even bring anything out of the car. You're like, I have games in the car if anyone wants them. Yeah, pretty much. Like, just kind of as like a fallback. I haven't been recently, but I guess that's true. Just kind of letting it come to me. Yeah. Not sure where I'm going with that, but that's... Well, let me pick up the pieces for you. Yes, thank you. Please jigsaw me. Jigsaw me. So Chit Talk as an entity too, I think has gone across sort of an interesting progression, which I think sort of parallels exactly what we're talking about. You know, this has been kind of condensed into the last 6 or 7 months, but Chit Talk, this may surprise you to learn this, has been in effect for like 2 years. It was like 2 years ago that we decided that we were going to start. It was July of 2016. That sounds about right. We've been doing the game group for over 2 years. So yeah, we've been doing the game group for just over 2 years, and I think it was just after we started the game group. Yeah, we kind of had the idea, but we never really thought about what, you know,
what it wanted to be, and it was pretty casual at first. It was mostly just like, just like kind of off the cuff comments about like, oh, I took a picture of this game and I played it, and this is what I did.
Put something on social media.
Yeah, right. It was never really taken very seriously. But then it was around this time last year that we started to be like, let's learn to take this more seriously, sort of thing, and like write reviews and this and that, and get in contact with people and all that. And I think that we went into that so hard that we came to hate it so quickly. Because it's not a job, and it's not something we want as a job. Like, I think that some people, I think would really relish the idea of like, take a hobby and turn it into a job. When I worked at the homebrew store, people would come in all the time being like, must be awesome to work here. And it's like, nope, it sucks just as much as any other job. And what happened to me? I left the homebrew store 5 years ago, and it's like, I've brewed once since then. I don't enjoy it. It was something I used to love so much, and I don't enjoy it anymore. All the reasons I do it, I would get annoyed with the hobby, with something I considered a hobby. It would get, I didn't like the version of myself that was now endeavoring in that hobby.
And I had the same experience in the same hobby as well. Yeah, where I was actually trying to open a brewery, and then falls apart for certain reasons. And I think I've brewed once in the last 12 years or something. 12 years, Jesus. 12 months, I meant, which is actually a year. So
that is correct.
Could have just
you're right about that.
Sure.
Okay. I think though that was a kind of a profound thing, and it's like it's an interesting thing, especially to have continued to come up in our lives. That it's like we tried to make a hobby into a job, it fell apart. We tried to make a hobby into a job, we hated it. Then we tried to, obviously this is not nearly as serious, but it's like we tried to structure what we were doing, and we came to hate it.
It's an exploration of
doing it.
Existential crisis.
Yes!
That's really what this has all been leading to. Is that I have this book by Kierkegaard. I don't. I should, but I don't.
The title of this document didn't print out, but it was something like 10 by 10 and the struggle for autonomy in a world fraught with dependence or something like that. It was pretty ridiculous. All right, so let's end on a high note. What have we been playing?
We have been playing a lot of Barren Park.
We have been playing a lot of Barren Park. Yes, that does come back to it. We've really been playing a lot of. I've been playing a lot of things personally about the things that play well at our meetups. Things that are. I love a game that is easy to throw down, but like for example, First Class. It's easy to throw down, but you play it once, you're like, wow, I see what's going on here. People want to come back and play that. That like we even played it several times at our meetup. Because like Garrett wanted to, he's like, I this time I can crack the nut. This time it's happening for me. It never happened for him. Nope. I've been playing a lot of games like that.
There's still a chance. He still has a chance. He's a young man.
He's got his whole life out of him.
Barren Park, First Class, you've been playing a ton of.
Yeah.
We played Suburbia twice in a row.
I did.
I played Suburbia 3 times in a week.
I think we're probably going to play it again this evening. I wouldn't be surprised.
I think so. So, should we come up with a 5x5?
Nope.
Thank you.
Nope. We should come up with a 1 by question mark.
I like that.
Play question mark amount of games one time.
List of games we may or may not play over the course of the next 4 or 5 decades. That sounds like the kind of thing I want to endeavor to do.
That's the kind of thing I can commit to.
Yeah, I think
we've been playing a lot of Arkham and Netrunner,
yes.
and I think that this is an important kind of thing to bring up because those games are commitments.
Yeah,
you really you buy into them, you understand them, you know them in and out. We did an Arkham stream recently, but it's like that is a game that it's a commitment, but it's a commitment that we came to naturally. That we never once felt like, all right, new Arkham packs got to come out. I mean, we were behind on Arkham packs for a little bit.
Through the Carcosa cycle.
We still haven't even played the final scenario of Carcosa before jumping into the next one because we died and we're just like, we'll get to it when we get to it, you know? And that feels good. That feels really, really good.
Yeah. Yeah, we definitely caught up with that. I think this is maybe just something about my own personality that I always get the best return on anything in life when I'm in a learning phase. Like I talk about this often, there's like 3 phases, I think, to like over the course of your life, and you do it over and over again. You learn something, and then you implement it, and then you wait for results. And when you're learning something, that's when I'm happiest. So I think with a game like, with most board games, and probably this is true with that early phase in a hobby where you're ticking things off, that's why I got so much enjoyment out of that, because it's just like there's so much to learn. I have to learn, the core fundamentals of a hobby, like beer styles, right? Beers in different countries, game mechanics, the difference between a Euro and a Amerithrash, like those big fundamental foundational things. And then after those have all been learned, it's like, now I got to find something else. I got to learn something else. So with the games like these, you absolutely can learn things as you play them over and over again, but it's more like optimization. Whereas I think with a game like Netrunner, Arkham, Lord of the Rings LCG, there's that learning phase goes on for so long. Because you think, you could play Netrunner for 3 months, and you think like, I know this game. And then you play with someone that's been playing it for a couple of years, and you're like, wow, I don't know this game at all.
Yeah, yep.
So now I'm in this whole new learning phase. And new sets come out, and that injects a whole other learning phase as well. So I think that is, I think inherently I'm probably always going to be on a similar sort of journey, just because that's who I am. And these are the great introspective discussions that we want to continue to have. And
it's happening right now.
And it is happening right now.
I was kind of actually really floored by what you said about the about initially when you're like want to play lots of games because you're in that learning phase. You're like, I need to expose myself to all the different manifestations, all the different ways that a game could go, or that games could take, which I think is a lot. I think explains a lot.
Yeah,
I think that explains a lot for sure. But I can definitely see, especially for you, knowing you like I do, that arc of like learning one game inside and out as it evolves, like Arkham LCG, like Netrunner, that sort of thing. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, Netrunner has come to an end, so let's never speak of it ever again. Ever.
Until Wizard of the Coast turns into a CCG?
Yes!
And then we're going to buy it.
Yes!
No, you said you're never going to buy it.
We're going to buy everything.
You're not going to buy it?
I'm going to buy everything. I'm going to sell all my games and buy everything. No, I'm not going to do any of that. No.
I hope they turn it into... Could they take the Netrunner system and then make it like food trucks, Like you're in a food... like you're in a... There's like... You're in a commercial... You're in a business park, and there's a whole bunch of food trucks, and they show up monthly. And this is what you're like making runs on the customers to get their money. You're like, they've got a wall, like, my wall is that I hate spicy food. And then you're like, well, I'm going to break down that wall with my shawarma. What do you think?
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, guys.